All right, guys, back at it. So I've been debating on titling this one, should the coaches at your gym be doing the same programming as you? Or I was going to call it, are you even doing CrossFit? I think I'm going to go with the first title, but you can comment if you have an opinion on that. So what am I talking about here? When CrossFit started, guys, early 2000s. Back then, you guys may or may not remember. I remember because I was doing it. It was well known if you were going to be really fit, it was going to take you 2 hours a day in the gym because you had to do all your lifting, all your resistance training, and then all your cardio, or vice versa. But it was going to take 2 hours. And here comes along this guy Glassman who's saying, today you're going to work out for 15 minutes, tomorrow 20, the next day 10, the next day 7, maybe the next day 25, and I'm going to get you more fit in all ways of life than any of those guys doing 2 hours in the gym. That was one of the most revolutionary things about CrossFit, was that it was so effective and efficient that you took less time and yet you got more fit than everyone else. And I think while CrossFit has changed how everybody works out in the world, all the equipment at Lifetime and Golds is different than it was in the early 2000s. That's because of CrossFit. How we work out is different. The pendulum is swung back to, but if you're going to be really fit, you need 2 hours in the gym, or you need a lot more time in the gym. And at that point, I'm going to say here many times, I think you've moved into a different lane. I don't think you're doing CrossFit anymore. Glassman used to tell a story. Janelle was bringing this up to me and it reminded me. He would say he'd get people in the gym as he's making, training people, and he'd get the local hockey team. And they're like, we need to train to get better at hockey. He's like, you know what? Great. Show up to the 9 a.m. class every day and I will get you better for hockey. Then he'd get the high school volleyball team. We need to get better at volleyball. Great. Come to the 4 p.m. class. I'm going to get you better at volleyball. Then they'd have the MMA guys. Great guys. Come to the noon class and or the 7 p.m. class. I'm going to get you guys better at doing MMA, jiu-jitsu, whatever you're doing. Suddenly these people would run into each other on the Saturday class, or they'd come to a different class and they're like, wait a minute. The volleyball players are doing the same thing I'm doing. The hockey players are doing the same thing I'm doing. And Gus would be like, yeah. Because what CrossFit does as a training methodology is makes you better at all the other physical things you want to do, if there are other things or not. But what was beautiful about CrossFit is you were working out less time than anybody else, and yet you looked better, you felt better, and you could do most of the stuff and a lot of stuff the other athletes in the world couldn't do. And I think because of the games and how those of us in CrossFit are always trying to get as close to the games athletes as we can. We want to see how fit we can be. That guy's my age. I want to see if I can do this at my age or whatever. And then people outside of the CrossFit world tend to see a lot of CrossFit games athletes media. Those guys are using the training methodology, but they are not training for longevity. They are not trained to be fit for life. They are trained to see with this methodology, which is so powerful, how quickly and how much can I peak before I get too old? Because we all know a 34-year-old CrossFit athlete at the games is old. Now, at each level, there's still amazing athletes, but we all know your shelf life as a premium CrossFit athlete ends in your early 30s. So these guys have to maximize how much can I get out of my body in a short period of time. That is not what that's not what CrossFit was invented to do. CrossFit was invented to make all of us as fit as we can be as normal people. Glassman eventually got into training elite athletes and military and that kind of stuff, but it started with him training normal people at his gym, and he figured out a new way to do it that was way more effective than anything else out there. And then suddenly Navy SEALs and other elite athletes were like, man, you're making all these people almost able to do what I can do. What can I do if I train this methodology? And they started doing it too. But as he says, as you've heard this line, maybe you never have it, the needs of the Olympian and the needs of grandma differ by degree, not kind. And what I mean by that is, whether you're doing 100 ring dips and she's doing knee push-ups off a chair, You're working the same muscles. You're working the same stimulus. She needs that just as much as the Olympian. It just differs by degree of difficulty, by degree of technicality, how much load we're putting on your body, all that kind of stuff. But the same basic physical needs and physical outcomes are there for all of us with CrossFit. And what I think has been lost is that CrossFit is not only the most complete methodology, it is the most efficient. But we've lost that efficiency because we want to get better, and now it's nice. I need to do extra stuff out of class. And my coach, since he has higher aspirations, the class isn't just good enough for him. He needs to do all this extra stuff, and we've totally lost our way. Guys, I have said this in recent videos. You know, and the Open is a great comparison for this. But I walk around in the world, I don't ever see other 52-year-olds that can do all the stuff I can do. I do when I do the Open. I realize that I'm middle of the pack at best for guys my age that do CrossFit. But it's because the standard is so much higher compared to what everybody else in the world is doing, even if they're working out, that this gets you so much more effective. And I work out, guys, about 4 hours a week. I take class Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. And sometimes if I'm feeling good, I'll do another one on Saturday and make it 5. Sometimes I'll just do a long row. Now I am doing, as I've gotten older, I do about 15 minutes of mobility every day, but that's something I can do at home when I'm watching a Spurs game. I do it in between classes. It's little snippets here and there of just movements I need to do to keep my joints feeling better. But that's not a workout. That's just keeping my body active and healthy. And as you get older, that becomes much more important. Janelle just made it to semifinals, my wife. Janelle works out 5 hours a week. 5 hours a week, guys. Does she do a bunch of extra stuff after class? Not usually. If she injures something and she's like trying to get her shoulder healthy, she'll do some extra stuff for that shoulder to get it healthy if she injured something. She does walk several miles a day with a ruck pack on. No one's telling her to do that. She enjoys doing it. She walks our dog. She walks with the ruck to make it a little harder for her. That's my wife's personality. If you know her, that's great. But all that is getting her to that level, and she just made semis, I think, last time I checked, top 200 in the world for her age group. 5 hours a week. And guys, what I love about King William District CrossFit is you ask any of the fittest people in the gym. You talk to Tim, you talk to Marco, you talk to Tommy. What do? They take class regularly. Now, they may be doing a bunch of other stuff. You're always going to see Coach John run around the neighborhood. Tommy's swimming in a river in Europe, or she's doing some high rocks in Dallas or somewhere. This is stuff they like to do. This is ways of expressing their fitness in an event or in a competition or in a sport or whatever it is. And they're doing that for fun. That's not to get them extra fit. That's showing how they can apply the fitness they got in the gym to the real world. And this is, again, the fundamental difference between, there were those gyms going around the 9 rounds, or it was like you had 9 different stations. I think there's still a couple of them out there. That is a workout. High Rocks is a workout. All these things are workout. It's like saying instead of us being a CrossFit gym, we were a Grace gym. Grace is 30 clean and jerks for time. That is a workout. That is not how we get fit. It is one of the workouts we have done and will do. But there's no depth underneath Grace in and of itself. It's like saying we're a Cindy gym. 20 minutes of 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 15 air squats. So now we're more of a calisthenic gym. And we're going to train all the ways we can to get better at Cindy. Okay, so we can get really good at Cindy. We are not a well-rounded athlete. We're just training to do Cindy. There's no depth underneath the training methodology we use. Or we're a 5K gym. We're training people to get as good at 5Ks as we can, so we're just running. Awesome. That is not a training methodology that has any depth underneath it. I'm getting you better at a certain distance running your body weight. That doesn't mean you are well-rounded and fit. Now, at King William District CrossFit, you do class. You can do Grace, you can do Cindy, you can do High Rocks, you can do a 5K, you can go swim in a river in Europe, you can do all these things. But what do? You come to class and do 1 hour of workout a day. And everybody they need special programming because I'm trying to do this or that or the other. We have athletes that blow past all these people doing specialized programming all the time. I see it happen all the time. It is because you've lost the merit and the focus of what was CrossFit originally invented for. Intensity was the key. If I'm going to work out for 7 minutes and get more fit, I need to be working hard for 7 minutes. And so That intensity is what I think people consciously or subconsciously shy away from at times. Or they're willing to do that, but they don't understand that we need the minimum effective dose for longevity. So if 7 minutes of intensity is great, then 70 minutes is even better. No, it's not. No, it is not better. It is definitely not better. I'll just say that. That's a whole nother episode. But more intensity is definitely not better. There's definitely a limit to that. And that's why Glassman was saying again, this methodology, applied correctly, you do not need to do it for very long. You should not do it for very long. And it gets you fit in all the other ways, all the other methods do, and better, and you look better than all of them. Because CrossFit will make your body look as fit as it can be, and that naturally looks best on all of us. I think of somebody else in the gym, Mina, who comes to the early morning class. Guys, Mina is a very busy girl, and she's married, she's got kids, she's got a job, and there's a lot on her plate. Doesn't talk a lot. But I know Mina's position in class after class. She's on her knees in this kind of prayer position with her head in between her arms, and it just makes me smile because I'm like, she's doing it right. And she just shows up for class at 5:30 or 6:30, and then off she goes about her day. If I needed 2 hours from her, she wouldn't be able to do it. And the thing is, she doesn't need to do it. You guys have seen Mina. She looks fantastic. She can do all the stuff in the gym, and it's fitting into her day. And she can do this for the rest of her life. So that's why I say, if you're at a gym or in life and somebody's telling you, well, now, you have higher goals. So we have to add a half hour extra cardio and a half hour extra gymnastics and a half hour extra lifting. No, you don't. You're not doing CrossFit right. You do class and apply it correctly. And if your gym's programming is not good enough for the best athletes in your gym, and I've said this before, but it's been a while, so I'll say it again. It's not good enough for you either. Because that means it is not pushing the stimulus in all the different ways that it's supposed to. It doesn't need to take more time. It just needs to apply correctly, and you need to be willing to work hard. So what I will say is, I think even for the best athletes that have those aspirations of maybe I can get to semifinals or beyond, because I think you can, and you can do that in your 30s and your 40s and your 50s by just doing class at a well-programmed gym forever. And then sometimes, okay, I realize I'm not very good on rope climbs. So 10 minutes after class once a week, you work on rope climbs. I'm not very good at snatches. Okay, let's get a little extra snatch work. We're doing this month's programming with Kayla. She's doing a great job of working on snatches. There's times to kind of brush up on some of these skills. But again, that's kind of like brushing up for an event. You're brushing up on this specific skill. It is not making your fitness a whole lot more well-rounded. It's moving the needle in this one area. And if you find that fun and engaging, then great. A very limited amount of that for a specific skill can be applied correctly. But as soon as I need to get stronger, so I need to be doing 3 lifting sets a week, and I need to do 7 Metcons a week, and I need to spend a half every day working on my gymnastics, you're not doing CrossFit anymore. I think Glassman would scoff at saying that is CrossFit. It is a complete bastardization of the original intent he invented. That is what changed the whole world and changed how all of us work out. So I say that again with the fact that notice the best people you see in your gym. And notice, okay, not somebody that comes in that was busting their ass for 2 years and 2 years later, they're not even doing it anymore. Because even if you see the CrossFit Games athletes that are past their prime, they're in their 30s or 40s or 50s now, the ones that are still doing CrossFit, all the ones I know of have gone back to, I work out, I take class 3, 4, 5 times a week, and that's how I work out. I'm going to do a morning session and an evening session. Those young guys that need to peak before they're 30, 31, 32, I get it, time is of the essence. But I think they also are aging in dog years. And you see a lot of those guys that are not doing CrossFit anymore down the road. And I will say they never really even understood true CrossFit. The ones that did understand it maybe had their competitive phase, and now we're just doing class. And a lot of those guys that are former athletes, former games athletes, they're just doing class, are still making it to the games or very close for their age group if they're still doing it. I just want to emphasize, guys, we want extra, we want more. And we're going to get there faster, and we're going to get more than all the other people that are just doing class. I think you're actually going to burn out sooner, get injured sooner, and not get any better. When you want to know how to get better, it's learning how to do the workout in class better. How do I scale this movement better so I can go faster? Can I add 5 pounds of this and maybe I go a little bit slower, but I can still finish in the time cap? Those are the details you work through with a coach to help you do that class better. But saying, what can I do for the next hour to get me better? You can rest and you can eat better. Those are 2 things you can do to get better. But in the gym, 3, 4 if you're young, 5, 6 days a week, maybe you like working out. That's it. And then go do all that other stuff. High rocks and 5Ks and swimming and all the other stuff, and you are applying your fitness to the real world, and that's fun. But all you need to do to be as fit as you want to be is class 3 to 5 times a week. All right, guys, let me know what you think. Right on.